Hello everyone, welcome back. In this video, we are going to start looking at some new technologies that exist. Many of these technologies you are aware of or should know, so we're pretty much just going to focus on this topic uh, to see how new technologies are created, what they're doing, and how they're changing our everyday lives. So, what are emerging technologies? Basically, technology that is new and innovative and are creating different ways for us to do simple everyday tasks or impacting society would be considered an emerging technology. So, as you all know, there have been a lot of new inventions in the tech world that have made our lives a lot easier. So, we're going to go through some of these. So, what exactly makes a technology invention a emerging technology? So, first, it has to be novelty, basically meaning it's not fully adopted or understood. It has to cause a disruption, so just changing, how we operate or how something's done. It has to have a growth potential, and it has to have some sort of uncertainty. So, pretty much, we don't necessarily know if it's good or bad, but we know that it definitely changes or impacts us in some way. So, examples of emerging technologies would be AI, which many of you use, many of you are aware of, as well as augmented reality and virtual reality. We also have blockchain and Internet of Things. So many people are aware of Internet of Things, as well as quantum computing, your wearable technologies, and brain computer interactions. So in this video, we're going to cover each of these and pretty much see how they work and how they impact our everyday life. So first, AI. Of course, there's no need for a major description or deep dive into AI because at this point, everyone knows what AI is. So basically, it's just your computer system that can pretty much do tasks that you ask it to do. Literally any task that you ask it to do. Now, I will rephrase that and not say any task because if there's anything malicious or anything bad that you're asking it to do, it will not do that. But common tasks such as help me do this, help me do that, or what would I do for this? So the key capabilities of AI would be the um, the ability to recognize patterns, just make predictions, understanding what a user's saying, and basically learning from data that's inputted into the actual AI system. Now, AI systems in itself can have its own uh, video, which it actually will. So we'll go deeper into that in the next one. So your common AI examples would be Siri, Alexa, and Google Assistant. Many of you are aware of the AI chatbot systems of ChatGPT, Microsoft Copilot, and Google's version, Google Gemini. So pretty much your chatbots that you communicate with, or when you search on Google and you say, hey, I'm looking for this, and then you get a Copilot summary, or I should say a Google Gemini summary, then that is now what it is. So AI is now its own website. It's built into web browsers. It's built into other applications, so it's very useful in everyday life. Now let's get into augmented reality. So there is augmented reality and virtual reality. So there are differences in the two. So when it comes to augmented reality, you're going to think of this one as the ability to add digital content to the real world. And when you're doing this, you're using some sort of smartphone or AR glasses, for example. So if you take a look at this picture, you see that there's a guy holding a tablet. Now, if you notice in the background of the picture, um, there's really nothing in the background other than a floor and a wall. But on his device, it's showing a couch. So basically, what augmented reality does is it takes the device and it pretty much makes you believe that the object is there, but only through the device. So when the device is not there, the object is not there. This is typically used, for example, with your Snapchat and Instagram filters. So if you put them, a filter on, the filter applies to your face, but that filter is not really there. It's only shown to you through your actual application. Same with Amazon. If you go to Amazon, look at furniture that you can purchase, you have the ability to basically place that object into your environment, whatever environment you're at. And another common example of this is Pokemon Go, which came out, years ago, allowing users to walk around the US or wherever they were and pretty much interact with different Pokemon. So, augmented reality is different from virtual reality because virtual reality is basically a computer generated environment that you are submerged in. In the last example, it wasn't that you were fully submerged in an environment, you just had the ability to place technology elements into your environment. In the virtual reality space, you basically are inside of a computer generated environment, and this typically happens through a headset. So, this is used through VR games or virtual tours or VR movies, training simulations, even. So, this is just the ability to make you feel like you are in an environment when you actually are not. So, some VR devices that allow you to create this immersive experience would be MetaQuest 3 and PlayStation VR 2. And you basically will put on this device, which comes with a headset. Typically, it has sensors and it has some controllers that you could interact with. And pretty much this will allow you to do different things inside of that immersive environment. So, with augmented reality, basically you are placing a digital element into your existing environment. With virtual reality, you are placing yourself into a digital environment. And with mixed reality, you're basically merging the two. So, mixed reality is a mixture of augmented reality and virtual reality, basically letting you merge the real world and that computer generated environment. So, this will allow you to interact with both at the same time. So, a common example of this now is the Apple Vision Pro. The Apple Vision Pro combines your AR and your VR to create an experience. So it actually has various cameras around the bottom, around the sides, that allow you to see around your surroundings. Now, when you put the goggles on, you technically cannot see where you are, what's around you, and what's going on. So what the Apple Vision Pro does is it uses those cameras to track your hands, to track your surroundings, and makes you feel as if you are in the digital space and in the real world at the same time. It's actually a very cool experience. I've had the chance to use it. Definitely like a technology I've never seen before, but it's definitely worth the experience. So if any of you are ever interested in having this experience, Apple does do free demos at the Apple stores, which you would have to schedule. But I highly suggest it to you all if you're interested in mixed reality. All right. So now let's get into another technology. Now, some of you may heard of it, some of you may not. But we're going to talk about blockchain. So blockchain is actually something that is used commonly. You just don't know about it and you don't see it. So basically what blockchain is, it is like a secure chain of events or records that happen across many computers. So when things are purchased, the blockchain creates a link. So one thing connects to another, which connects to another, which connects to another. And they all pretty much depend on each other. So here's an example of how it works. So for example, if a user requests a transaction, it's requested over a network, and that network has different connections to it. So those connections are used to pretty much validate that transaction. Pretty much each of them are checking that the transaction occurred. And then once they all verify that the transaction has occurred, it basically combines with the other previous transactions to create a new block. So when it creates a new block, it's basically taking all old data or all old transactions and adding this new transaction to it. So that addition creates a new block of data. So every time one transaction comes in, that old transaction is copied, the new one is added to that, and it creates its own new box, which is then added to the existing chain. Hence why it's called blockchain. And basically, when the blockchain happens, it's pretty much hard to alter because of the fact that the older transactions are being copied and attached to the newer transactions. So, therefore, if a user would try to modify, let's say, a block at the very beginning of a chain, it would pretty much be impossible because every block after that has that original data as well. So it would be very noticeable if it's tampered with. So that is why blockchain is used and why it's helpful. Another technology we have is Internet of Things, which many of you have and use every day. So this is just going to be what you consider a network of just physical objects, which can be devices, your vehicle, or even smart appliances that can connect to the internet. So they basically give you the ability to collect, share, and respond to data as well as do different tasks. So some examples of this would be uh, smart thermostats. So if you have the ability to control your house temperature from your phone, even your smartwatches, if you have, the fancy refrigerators with iPads on them, or you have, the washing machines where you can control it from your phone, things of that nature. Even cars, so like Tesla, for example, and your voice controlled devices like Alexa. So all of these are considered IoT devices, and they're pretty much used to make your life simpler. So if you have these small devices, they basically connect to a network. And imagine everyone has these devices in their house. So that is why it's considered Internet of Things, because all of these devices connect to the internet and there's a bunch of random things connecting to it. So hence Internet of Things. All right. Another emerging technology we have is quantum computing. And this one you probably may have never heard of, but it is starting to pick up speed in the tech world. So basically, it's just a type of computing that uses quantum physics to pretty much process information. So when the information is processed, it occurs very rapidly. And some key concepts that you want to focus in on here is how it's done. So, as you know, with your normal computer, all of your data on your computer is in the form of a bit, 0 or 1. Well, in the case of quantum computing, it's actually in qubits, and qubits can be 0 and 1 at the same time. So, it's not 0 or 1, it can be 0 and 1. So, that's the difference. Bits 0 or 1, qubits 0 and 1. And pretty much what they do is the qubits are linked together, which in this term is called entanglement, and they pretty much allow you to create different solutions at the same time. So just think of it as combining millions of people together to all solve one problem. Now, think of a computer as just being maybe one or two people trying to solve that exact same problem. So, two people versus 20,000 people trying to solve the same problem. Think about it. You would have a quicker result and better results from the group that has more thinkers. So, that's kind of how you can consider quantum computing. So, quantum computing is actually typically associated with a physical device. And this is an example of it. As you see, it's a bunch of many wires. It's a lot of metal. It's a lot going on, but it's basically like various mini computers connecting together to create this massive computing power. All right, another common emerging technology is wearable technology. So, as you know, it's basically any technology you can wear. And commonly, this would be like your smartwatches, your smart glasses, or even smart rings, and now even medical equipment. So, for example, Fitbits, Apple Watches, Meta glasses, all of these will be wearable technologies which allow you to, collect data about your health, collect data about your surroundings, and other things. So it's very useful, and often these devices connect back to your smartphone or your laptop, allowing you to use the data how you need or just adjusting your everyday tasks based on the results on those devices. And lastly, on the emerging technologies we're going to cover is brain computer interfaces, or BCIs. So these are systems that are starting to be created that allow you to have a direct communication between the brain or your brain and an external device. So basically, think of it as brain control. And you would have the ability to control different things or technology devices. So, computers, let's say you lost a leg or arm, prosthetics, or other technologies, which I've actually had the ability to see in person. So, in this image, you see that this lady is wearing a headband and she's staring at a drone. In the demonstration I saw in person, basically, I saw the same demonstration. A user was controlling the drone based on their thoughts. So there was no controller other than their head. So after I saw the demonstration, I asked them, how did you do that? And basically, what they do is they train themselves based on different images or different things. And when their brain thinks of that item, it does the task. So they program their brain to say, hey, let me think about a cloud. So when the person thinks about the cloud, clouds are usually associated with being above. And so if a person thought about a cloud, the drone will go up. Or if the person thought about the ground, the drone would go down. So they pretty much would program their thoughts in their brain and different actions for the drone to do with different things. And associating the actions with different things allowed the user to control the device. So it's actually very cool. I highly suggest you all look it up, maybe watch a video on it, but it's very cool to see. All right. So overall, what did we cover today? Pretty much we covered all the new emerging technologies. We didn't get too deep into them because, again, this is more so of introduction into these technologies. But if you did find some of these interesting, I highly suggest that you look into them. So we looked at AI, we looked at AR, we looked at VR, we looked at MR, which again, augmented reality, virtual reality, mixed reality. We looked at blockchain, Internet of Things, quantum computing, your wearable technologies, and either your brain computer interactions. So these are just some of the common everyday items that are starting to be seen within the technology field. Of course, many of these items can be used in your life, in your career. So if you find any of these interesting, I highly suggest you do a deep dive into them. But this is more so just a brief introduction into them so you can see what's out there and see how the world is changing around us with these new technologies. So I hope that you found some of these technologies cool. I hope maybe that it will spark some research on your end. And in the next video, we will get deeper into one of these technologies, seeing how it has changed our everyday life. So until then, I hope that you can take one of these technologies and apply it in your everyday life. See you in the next video.